Well, welcome to A Day in a Life. It is week 4, and week 4 is our Cindy's Believe It or Not. This is where we talk about some things that have happened on the properties that we own, and it's kind of like, believe it or not, this actually did happen. So, I've talked a couple of times about some different properties that we have. But I really would like to talk about a good thing that we had on our property because sometimes it's always the scary stuff, the snake man that lived and he had all kinds of snakes in his house, which, by the way, reptiles are against the lease, and you have to sign an addendum saying that you don't have a reptile. And just as a little teaser on this, we are doing pet costumes. And so people for Halloween. So there's two sides to this. You do a bring your pet in with their costume, take their picture. We put it up on the Facebook community. People vote for the cutest pet. So there's two reasons we do that. One is it's fun and everyone loves their pet, but two, it lets us know who has pets. So if someone brings in their dog all dressed up cute, then they go, okay, what's your apartment number? So they know who to give the winner to, should they win, and then they go check the lease and see if they have a pet addendum that they actually do have a dog. Well, we had someone bring in their bearded dragon. I don't know about you guys, but that is a reptile. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So what do we do now? So we actually are working with the property management company to let him keep the bearded dragon. Um, it's not very big. He said it's not going to get any bigger, and he has to keep it in an aquarium, which he already does. So we needed to cover our basis on that because it definitely says no reptiles. And I had someone when I was doing an audit said, they listed their pet and said this is a pet. It is a snake, which is a reptile. They wrote that in right underneath where it says no reptiles allowed. So that one they did have to get rid of. It was a boa constrictor, and they can grow. They can get lost in the vents and grow in the vents, and then we have stories. So, but that's not what I'm talking about today. Today I'm going to talk about a good story of what we did. So, and we've done this 2 years now. Um, every prime in the summer, it's about in June sometime. I don't know. Lorik hasn't marked in his calendar. He'll remind me that prime is coming up, and we go on Amazon and we will order backpacks. The first year we ordered 60. The second year we ordered 100. And what we did, it was the backpacks were $5 because it was Amazon Prime. And then we also purchased a packet which had paper and pencil and pen and eraser and crayons and just everything all already in a packet. Instead of having to individually buy these different items, we just bought a packet. And then we bought a second set of spiral bound notebooks that they need. So what we did is we offered it as a pay on time incentive. Now, I don't know about you guys. I know my kids are a little bit older, but I do know that when it was time for them to go to school, that we did have to, buy all the school supplies. And it is only more expensive now than it was when they were in school. And what we wanted to do is we're always trying to be forward facing with our residents, meaning that we're looking at them, we're talking with them, we're trying to understand what their needs are and how we can help them. And we had decided 2 years ago that that would be a great way to help our residents is if we bought the backpacks and the supplies, then that's one less thing they had to buy, and it was an incentive to pay on time. So instead of choosing, do I pay for this for my kids or do I pay my rent? We're going to pay our rent because we know we're going to get the backpacks. So we did that. We did it for 60 children the first year, and then this year we did 100. And so I think that it's important when you are, trying to find ways to help your residents that you talk with them, you try to understand where they are, where we can meet their needs. We also, at this particular complex, they had a playground. Now, it was a playground that I grew up on, has the swings and the merry-go-rounds that you fall off of, and, all kinds of places where people can break their arms, and those are now deemed unsafe. And so when we bought the property, we had to take it out. So there was no playground. So one of the things that we did when we were raising for the property, for our CapEx, we put in there that we were going to put in a playground. So we had a member of our asset management team who did all the research because playgrounds are kind of a national company. It's not really a local company. So she contacted 5 or 6 playground centers across the United States, found out like how much it would be because they would have to ship it, they would have to install it. We did have a good level area for it, but they would have to put the border around it and then also put in the blocks of the styrofoam or wood chips. We like had to decide what are we going to line it with. We just couldn't let them land in the dirt. Um, and that playground cost about $60,000. So it was an investment. But when we do things, typically for a value add, we're always looking at what is the return on our investment. And when we renovate a unit, we know that it's going to cost us maybe $10,000 to do this renovation, but we're going to be able to get a return because now we can raise the rent $300 a month. How many months will it take us to make back that $10,000 that it took to renovate? Well, on the backpacks, there is no ROI. Like, how do we measure that? Well, we don't. There's no way to measure it except when it comes to renewals. Now, our renewal rate at that property, the national average is 50%, and our renewal rate is 85. Now, I would like to think that the backpacks are part of that renewal, that they look at living there, they know their needs are being met, they know that we care about them, that we are trying to do things for them. This is the same property with the playground. So we started looking around. Then we found a playground that we told them our timeline is it had to be installed by the first day that school was out for Christmas break. So I think it was like December 12th or something. And so I mean, it was like in Octoberish that we were making these negotiations, but we told them, it has to be finished by this date because we wanted the kids, when school was out, that they would have a place to go and play. And not only was there a return on that for, how do you measure that ROI? I don't know. How much fun can a kid have on a playground? How much relief does that give a stay-at-home, mom or dad that's trying to fix dinner, get things ready, and yet their child is being able to go to a playground that it's safe, that they can go and play. So how do you measure that? I don't really know. But what I do know is that once we started the playground, it took 10 days for them to install it. And every day there would be a couple of kids sitting up on the hill. It was like up on a hill they could watch the playground going in. And every day more kids showed up. So more and more kids were watching and waiting. And I guarantee you, on the day that it opened, that was a glorious day for those kids because first off, they were out of school, no school for 2 weeks. So, they're happy about that. But then also, they had a playground that they could go to and they could play at this playground and they could be safe. They were able to, their parents knew where they were. And it's hard to measure an ROI on that. One of the things, though, is no other apartment complex in this town has a playground like this. It's a big playground and it's brand new. Nobody has it. And you see it from the road. And we have had people that have come into the leasing office that have said, I saw your playground and I wanted to come in. We're looking for an apartment. So not only do we have, happy children, happy people that live there, but now we see people that are stopping because they can see it from the road. There's no one else in town that has anything like it, so they're able to come in. And guess what the kids do while the parents are touring the property? What are they doing?
Play on the playground.
They're playing on the playground. So it allows them a place to go. Also, what we did when we installed it is we installed benches. So not only does it have the border with the rubber, we did the rubber chunks. So it has that, but we also put in benches. So now parents have a place to sit and they can sit and they can talk with each other. They can get to know who their neighbor is. Because if you remember, our whole concept is from complex to community. That was our whole concept on this particular property is we wanted to take it from a complex, which it definitely was, to a community, which it has become. Now we've got, right now they're doing a Halloween decoration where you can decorate your doors, and everyone is decorating their doors. They've got all kinds of things, they've done not just their door, but the railings in front. And so it definitely has created a sense of community. This is at one complex that we've done this. So there have been other things we do at other complexes that bring that sense of community. We have one complex that every month they celebrate birthdays. So they have an AI. We use AI on this property. And of course, it has everyone in there that anyone that lives in the apartment is listed on the lease with their birth date. And so every month, I think it's the third Thursday, they'll get a text. We know that you have a birthday. Please come to the office. We have a treat for you. And they'll either have cupcakes or cookies or something for them to honor them for their birthday. And they do it every month. And we've had people at this complex say, please don't stop doing this. We love doing this. We love that we're getting to know our neighbors. So we decided we're going to take this one step further. We installed a grill and a pergola that covered uh, picnic tables. And every weekend, there are people that are out there that are grilling. So they're getting to know their neighbor. Our next project on that is we're going to string lights so that you can have lights on at night. So they don't have to barbecue during the day. They can do it during the evening. But people are coming out and they're sitting there and they're getting to know their neighbor. We live in a time where people don't know their neighbors. They go to work, they come back to their apartment, they go to bed, they get up, they go to work. And so, what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a sense of community. We know that when people love where they live, they're going to renew. And so, that's our whole purpose in doing this. Um, the third complex I want to talk about is we have just purchased it in April. So we've done a few things already, and we're taking a basketball court, we're changing it to a pickleball. Now, we don't just randomly do these things. We send out polls to the residents. Remember, we're forward facing. We're talking to the residents. We're asking them, what would you like? So we sent out a poll asking, we needed the basketball court um, it needed to either be repaired or repurposed. And so that we gave them the choice. Do you want to keep it a basketball? Do you want to make it a pickleball? And The other thing that we had asked was a community garden. And the community garden got almost as many votes as the pickleball court did. And so that's going to be one of our next projects is putting in a community garden. And we'll probably do like a really simple raised garden, so we don't have to worry about the landscapers, it'll be in boxes that are raised. And we'll start out with just a couple because we don't know. I mean, people say they want a community garden, but do they? That's the question. Are they going to actually be out there weeding it, working it? I don't know, but we're going to find out. That's why we're only going to do two boxes to begin with. But our goal is to have that all set up so that we can plant. I think tomatoes have to be planted in February. So hopefully by February, we'll be in a position. The pickleball court will be done, but then we'll be able to work on the community garden. So it's important to always be talking with your residents, sending out polls. Would this be beneficial to you? The other thing that we have done on 6 properties now is we've done reserved parking. There's plenty of parking at all of the apartment complexes. It's not that there's a shortage, but people want to be able to park in the same spot every time. We're creatures of habit, and they want to park closest to their apartment, especially the ones in Texas because it rains a lot. And we have one complex that has 132 units. And out of that, we have, is it 52, Lorik? We have 52 reserved parking spaces, of which 50 are taken. So we only have 2 left. Now, I we did this as a trial because people said they wanted reserved parking, and I honestly did not believe it. I was like, who's going to pay for reserved parking? Like you can park anywhere. There's so much parking. Every complex we have at least like a 1.5, meaning there's a 1.5 parking space for every unit. So um, we have 150% parking available, and I thought no one is going to pay. And yet here, where there's 132 units, 50 people want reserved parking. And so we have rolled this out at our properties, and this we can measure the ROI on it. It costs us $105 to get the sign that says reserved, and then we get the stencil and we paint a number. We don't do their apartment number. They're just like numbered 1 through 50. Um, they pay $20 a month for it. And so basically in 5 months, we have paid for that reserved parking. But that reserved parking, they sign a year lease. So we know we're going to be making money on that. And then when they renew, they're not going to say, I don't want my parking anymore. They're going to keep their parking. Or someone moving in, now they know that we have reserved parking available for them. And so that we can actually measure the ROI on that. So it's important that we're always forward facing, that we're always talking to our residents. What are they interested in? What would they like to have? What would they like to do? So these are just some ideas of things that we have done on communities that have really, really paid off. Um, the one that I was telling you about with the backpacks, they're at 96% occupancy. So we're almost full. That's the one that has the 50 units. That's the one that has the playground. And so we know that we have really successfully changed that complex to a community because of all the things that we're doing, all the feedback that we get, and they love that we send out polls and ask them what they want to do. So that gives you some ideas. I have done absolutely all the talking. I have a couple of minutes. I do have to jump. I have another appointment. I won't typically have to leave right on time, but today I do. So Tyler, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you answer any questions that come about. But thank you so much for listening. Hopefully this gave you some good ideas of things that you can do to help your complex become a community.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, yeah, we'll go ahead. We got about 5 minutes left before we have to wrap up the day in the life. So, what things are you guys thinking about? What do you think about what Cindy talked about? Is there any challenges on your properties that you're currently facing?
I can always speak if nobody else will speak. That's an unfortunate fact of my problem. I can speak, but some of the properties that I get to be GP on that I just looked at down in the Dallas area, we don't. It doesn't look like we have room for a playground, but I'm going to check into it. Looks like there's some parking that's not being used, where I can see we could do that. And I see that people have grills out back behind their things, so they're doing it on their own. They're not connecting. But I love these ideas to trigger how can we get the community together to do stuff. Anything like that to me, it just boosts retention. It lowers your turnover costs. It lowers your marketing expenses. I'm like nuts about it. So I really appreciate these ideas. But it triggers, hey, if we don't have space, what could we do to make something fun happen for the kids? And I did notice that no matter how small a unit, if it's a 16 or a 33, something like that, they're still doing the door, the function, the things for Halloween and that sort of thing. But I love it the way, you come get some goodies for your birthday. I think all that stuff is just resonates so good with me. Thank you.
Yeah, I love that you talked about that, right? Like, one of our big things when we got into this is that we didn't want to be slumlords and we want to provide people with an amazing place to live. And that's just part of what we try to do is turning it from that complex to a community and give people a reason to be there. So I love that you said that. Thank you. Anybody else? Otherwise, we'll give you back 3 minutes of your day. How generous of us.
I have a question.
Yeah,
I believe you guys said the backpacks were like 10 or so dollars, $5 to $10 each. Is that correct?
that's a Lord question, not a Tyler question.
Oh, okay. Well, is that
He's here.
So you were saying the backpacks cost us $5 to $10? Is that what you're
She was
yeah,
asking?
is that
asking how much the backpacks did cost you.
Yeah, they were about $5 to $10, and that was a backpack, a notebook, um, and then a kit that has pens, pencils, rulers, all that kind of stuff in it. So yeah.
oh, nice. So is that, I mean, I know you guys mentioned it was hard to really like see the ROI on that, like metrics wise, but is that something you would put into your concessions or just,
No, that came from our cash flow.
oh,
Like we were that we took a hit on our revenue so that we could give back to our residents. So yeah.
When he's talking about it's hard to calculate an ROI, it's because us giving away backpacks, we don't make any money. Just like putting in a playground, you don't make money when you do that. It's an expense. But what you do have is things that are non-tangible returns on your investment. So you have a higher retention rate, you have happier tenants, you have a community that builds each other up instead of tearing each other down. You have less complaints about neighbors and other people, and you don't have building one shaking their fist at building two. Um, it's all of that stuff, right? But you can't look at your bottom line, your NOI, and say I increased my NOI by this dollar amount because I did these things. So that's what we were just saying with that one.
gotcha. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Well, that runs us up to our time. If you guys ever need anything, you have our contact information. Give us a call, shoot us an email, whatever you need to do. We are happy to help in any way. Um, sorry. David said, I believe we put Nichols back into the sense of community. We lower turnover expenses and marketing expenses, and reviews go up, referrals for applicants go up. I believe all of those positive things are impacted. Nickel spent turned into multiple dollars saved and earned. Yep, 100%. And that's a huge push that we're doing too. Is reviews. Like, you got to have good reviews on your apartment complex. People check that stuff. So I totally agree. People are much more likely to say, "Hey, come live here where I live," when they're happy about it and they like paid their rent on time. They got a free backpack with all their kids' supplies. So, all right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us. We will see you next week. Have so much fun and enjoy Halloween.